Honestly, I didn't really expect myself to make this video today, but after coming back home from a movie, I really just felt like it just ties close to how things really are and how I think, and also how I like to help other people from what I've learned when I was younger. By the way, what I'm going to talk about today is going to be based off a movie that I actually just came back from watching called He Man. And if you don't want some spoilers, then you can click off. It's not going to be major spoilers, but the very important parts, which I really wanted to share, which I thought was just absolutely great. And I took a lot from it. So after coming back home from watching that movie, I felt really just emotional at one part or a couple parts of the movie, specifically one scene near the end. But if you go back to the beginning, it was just this guy who went to the world of Earth world after being teleported. And in that part, he was just someone average, a normal kid, trying to tell his story, going back into his world, just being looked at or looked as weak and not strong and maybe pathetic by other people in the world. And all his life, the character named Adams wanted to be strong, maybe be seen, perhaps. And from the beginning portions of the movie, he was looking for this sword, the sword that he lost in the beginning. And once he found it, this sword, these villains were going after it. They wanted the sword because of that power that was in that sword. And he believed that the sword gave him power, which it did at certain scenes. But near the end is where I really just saw it, and what I really just had this emotional kind of internal feeling when I saw what he said, and just felt very connected to what he was just talking about. Because near the end, the sword breaks apart, it shatters. And after that sword shattered, he felt like he had no value, no power, no strength, thinking that the sword was the only thing that was giving him power, and was without that sword, without that thing outside of himself, he was really just nothing. Just the average kid again, average Adam, that weak person people looked at him as, and how he even viewed himself at certain points in time. And after the sword breaks and he goes into some kind of dream world or something, this bird flies in and he tells the bird that the sword is broken and he's just powerless and he's nothing. And the bird looked at him and said, "So what?" And you mean what? He said, "What do you mean, so what? I can't fight without the power, or that sword that has the power." And it looked at him and it said, "So what?" And he said, "What do you mean, so what?" He means, and the bird was saying, "So what if the sword's broken? Did that power really come from the sword?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And he said, "What is the words you always said? You would always say this saying that draws that power within, which never actually came from the sword, but actually came from him, because he was the chosen one. He was He Man. So why do I bring that story up? Why do I bring that thing up about this guy named Adam, or He Man, who had this sword and always believed that the power was within the sword, and he felt powerless? Is because at certain parts of our life, even for myself in my childhood, I would always look for this external power, external validation outside of myself, thinking that I'm powerless, and I'm not good enough because I don't X, Y, or Z. I'm not good enough because I don't have a girlfriend. I never had all that money. I don't have that fame, that recognition. I don't feel good enough because maybe I'm not good at the certain thing in life. Maybe I'm not on my own. Maybe I'm not where I want to be. I'm that Adam kid. I'm weak. I'm powerless. And maybe for you, maybe you're thinking the same thing because you don't feel good enough. You don't have that dream life. You don't have this partner in your life. You don't have the money, or you believe you need money to be good, or you have to be good to impress somebody, impress your family. You have to prove them wrong. When in reality, that power, that self worth was never from something outside of ourselves. We don't need that sword to feel power. We need is ourself, knowing that we have the inner power within ourselves. We have that inner strength. We don't need something outside of ourselves to make us worthy, to make us powerful. You were born worthy. Maybe you're not where you want to be, and that's okay. Maybe you made a promise to yourself that you would get to there at a certain point and you maybe failed. And guess what? That's okay. You know why? Because you can keep trying. Try again. Maybe find a different routine, different change of plans. But don't look yourself as powerless and not valuable because you don't have these things in your life. These things outside of yourself do not define you. Nothing outside of you defines who you are. It doesn't define your value. It doesn't matter if you don't have all that money, you're not on your own, you don't have that fame or wealth. What matters is the value you have within yourself, knowing that you are powerful within yourself. I mean, for example, look at Gandhi. He wasn't this powerful guy with a freaking military fighting the British. He had himself believing in his own power, his own inner strength. I guess you can say he was also at a higher form of consciousness at that time than the British Army. But at the same time, the power he found was always within, and he drew that power not by force, but by the power that he believed he had with himself that made other people join him. So today, I want you to find that power. Stop looking outside of yourself for something to make you feel like you're good enough. You don't need these things outside of yourself to be good enough. You need you to believe in yourself, to believe again, to trust yourself, and stop talking bad toward yourself when you know these things aren't true, even if they look like they are, but they're not. They're nothing more than just the negative belief system, the ego, trying to make you believe that they are when they're not. So I hope this video helps you, because I know at a certain point this video will help me in the future if I ever look down at myself, if I ever believe that maybe something's not going right. So I hope it will help you.